Swords and fantasy. They go together so well that swords and sorcery is literally one of the names for the genre. But honestly, we're bored to death of them. Here at the character sheet, we favor the weapons of the working man, like the good old spear. So toss those bougie blades back into the lake where you got them from and buckle up as we scour the worlds of fiction, anime, and video games to bring you our list of the 5 greatest spear users in all of fantasy, in no particular order. At number 5, we have a man whose spear skills became so iconic he spawned an entire archetype of fantasy warriors when he first appeared in the incredible Final Fantasy series. The daddy of dragoons himself, Kain Highwind. Kain is truly an amazing character from Final Fantasy II, aka Final Fantasy IV, where his rivalry with the main character Cecil is so iconic that later versions of the game actually made him a fightable boss. His ability to literally leap off the screen and come crashing back down spear first into his enemies for massive damage became the signature move of the Dragoon class going forward, and to this day his silhouette remains perhaps the signature image of what many consider the golden era of Final Fantasy. He spends the first half of the game mind-controlled by Golbez, the big boss of Final Fantasy IV, and is so powerful that even with a full party you can't defeat him, you just have to try and survive as he comes crashing down on you with his spear time and time again. In the after years versions of Final Fantasy IV, he becomes even more powerful, undergoing a brutal period of spiritual training to evolve himself into a holy dragoon after absorbing his own dark side, leaving him as the most powerful spear wielder in the history of the Final Fantasy series and a worthy first entry on this list. At number 4, we have one of the most deadly fighters in all of Westeros, and the man who single-handedly took down the mountain, Gregor Clegane. It's the Red Viper, Oberyn Martell. What makes the Red Viper so deadly isn't just his incredible skill with a spear, which he honed in the infamous fighting pits of Meereen, where he put his life on the line in duel after duel, but his cunning and knowledge of deadly poisons he gained while studying to be a maester as well. While Oberyn eventually got bored after forging several of his maesterlinks, he did acquire a wealth of knowledge about the creation and application of poisons. So not only were his skills with a spear truly exceptional, as we saw in the duel with the mountain where even without the poison he was largely just toying around with the strongest man in Westeros, but even a single nick from his spear would be absolutely deadly, as it was usually coated in some of the most vile and deadly poisons imaginable. If he hadn't been so blinded by revenge after felling the mountain that he became careless, he would have walked away from that duel totally unscathed. And even in death, he proved just how terrifying of an opponent he could be, as the screams of the mountain were said to be heard throughout King's Landing for hours afterwards. At number 3, we have our first entrant from the amazing Malazan series, Trull Sengar, the outcast member of the Teast-Edura royal family, the so-called Children of Shadows. Think what if Drow were somehow also massive 7-foot-tall barbarians, and you kind of get the gist. But Trull stood out even among this race of incredibly powerful warriors, capable of fighting off an entire pack of Soul Taken, basically werewolf shapeshifters, where he slew so many of the powerful creatures that their leader called off the attack, stating they had never seen such skill and ferocity. He even managed to fight Ikarum, one of the most powerful warriors of the whole series and a borderline demigod known as the Slayer of 10,000 and the Maker of Time, to a standstill, only giving way after his spear literally exploded from the force of the impacts it was taking. His skill with the spear was only matched by his honor, and he was more than willing to die to protect his family or those fighting alongside him, even after being cast out by his Emperor brother. And when combined with his incredible skill, it made him one of the last people you would ever want to see opposing you on the field of battle in a fantasy series full of epic warriors and a seemingly never-ending war. Coming in at number 2, you know we couldn't make a list about fantasy spear users without the Wheel of Time resident gambler and the man with 1,000 memories, Matt Cauthon. One of the most powerful Ta'veren in the history of the world, fate and luck basically bent to his will. And that was even true when it came to his incredible skill with the spear. Matt had the memories and experiences of hundreds of the finest generals in the history of the world to call on, all rattling around inside his head, but even before he had their wisdom and expertise to draw on, he beat Galad and Gawain, 2 exceptional swordsmen who were being trained by the warders, while barely being able to stand after escaping his sickbed. Once he visited the Eelfiend and got his gift of the memories and the spear Ashandarai in exchange for them hanging him, he basically became unstoppable, and was more than a match for any Blade Master in the series. He also killed Kaladin in single combat, who was perhaps the most ferocious and powerful of the Aiel warriors and leader of the Shido, and his reflexes let him catch knives thrown at him by the incredibly powerful Golem right out of the air, Combined with thousands of years of knowledge of warfare from the greatest military minds of all time, this basically turned him into a warrior and a general that simply could not be defeated, especially with his uncanny ability to bend luck itself to his will, and made Matt Cauthon the most dangerous spear user in the entire Wheel of Time. And at number 1, we have the leader of Bridge 4 turned Windrunner and Knight Radiant, Kaladin Stormblessed from the Stormlight Archives. While Kaladin gained tremendous power from his bond with his friend Selfrina, his talent with the spear came far before that, and is merely augmented by his ascension to becoming a Knight Radiant later on. After failing to save his brother's life as a teenager, Kaladin drove himself obsessively to practice with the spear, dropping from exhaustion every single day as he tried to hone his skills so much that he could prevent the deaths of any more of his loved ones. And in fact, he became known as the greatest spearman in Amaram's entire army, able to take down half a dozen other spearmen in mere seconds, and earning him the title of the youngest squad leader in the whole army and the nickname Stormblessed. In fact, during his time in the army, Kaladin actually killed a full shard bearer with only his spear. A shard bearer wields an incredibly powerful weapon known as a shard blade and armor known as shard plate that enhance the abilities of their users to superhuman levels with the power of Stormlight. And still, Kaladin killed him in single combat with only his spear and his skills, showing what a truly terrifying talent he had for the spear and for killing both. When he later comes into his own power as a shard bearer and a Knight Radiant with his already unparalleled skills with the spear now enhanced by his own supernatural abilities, there was basically no one, not even his fellow Knights Radiant or the Assassin Vest, that could stand against him in battle. So when it comes to those warriors that favor the spear, perhaps none have ever been more powerful than the Herald of the Almighty and the Captain of the Bridgemen, Kaladin Stormblessed. And that's our list of the 5 greatest spear users in all of fantasy. Did we leave out a pointy stick enthusiast that would have made it onto your version of the list? Let us know down in the comments, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.